Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Thursday Checkdown with Joe and Rick. Our show is all about having fun, discussing our game with many amazing people in the fantasy football community. Last week we had Hoff and Pete Nova on from Fantasy Face-Off Sports. This week we have two more of my favorite from that group who helped Fantasy Face-Off grow in the past year. This week we have at Fantasy Savvy Steve Deangelo and at the Real NFL Guru Anthoy Cervino of RotoWire. Glad we finally got you guys on the show. What's up, fellas?
What's going on, guys?
Yeah, what's up? What's up, Joe? Rick, nice to meet you. First time. I know Joe's been checking in on the show and he's been hitting me up. I think you hit me up in like February about this, or maybe January. And true to your word, here I am today. So this is going to be fun.
Absolutely. You guys, I started listening. I talked about it last week. I started listening to you guys probably in January last year. And quickly found out that you guys are very sharp. I learned a lot. There's some guys that maybe I was out on and you guys convinced me to be in on, and some guys I was a little overzealous about and you guys convinced me to tame, and it actually, worked out pretty good overall.
Good.
Definitely one of my favorite go-to content creators for sure.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, awesome to hear.
So I guess we're going to go ahead and first find out about the two of you, and then we'll kind of get into more fantasy football related things. So let's find out a little bit more about your background, like where you live, where your family, or what kind of family, or what is your family, and then any work or hobbies that you do outside of fantasy football. You want to go first, Anthony?
Should we? You know what? We'll go seniority. We'll do Anthony first.
Okay, so I married, a 10-year-old son, 4 animals, a Pomeranian, 3 cats. Outside of fantasy, I don't know. I mean, the gym's a big part of my life. Training since at least I was 16 years old, had a gym membership, and it remains a big part of my life. Sports betting, obviously, any type of gaming, whether it's sports betting, fantasy, high stakes fantasy, I have my hands in all the time. And I have taken a step back from Face Off to focus on my full-time job over at RotoWire, SEO, content. You have to evolve with the business, and doing it full time, it just exposes me to more gaming, which is great. Like, I absolutely love this business. And it kind of takes over your life when you do this all day long to begin with. And yeah, here I am.
Nice. I like it. RotoWire is a big, definitely a big. I've been reading those magazines since God knows 2003, whatever. Big names.
And they're great people to work for. RotoWire, GDC, thegamblingroup.com. Really great company to work for. I started there freelancing a few years ago, was ultimately hired full-time as a hybrid SEO editor. Now I'm a full-time SEO strategist and also doing content. So, I mean, it's an amazing company. I have not a bad thing to say about anybody there. It's awesome.
Okay, Steve.
Yeah, I'm out in Florida now, on East Coast of Florida, right kind of by on the Space Coast where Elon is shooting the rockets off. Originally from Jersey, though, North Jersey. I moved out here 2021. So the weather's great. The freaking weather's awesome. It's a little, when you're in Jersey in the Northeast for 40 years, you still got to kind of get used to everything. The people, the food, even the environment. There's, you go outside at night, there's crazy ass bugs you never seen in your life before. So, yeah, but the weather, man, is pretty unbelievable. It's going to start getting hot here soon, but it's pretty much sunshine all the time, which is great. Especially you guys know up north, all those gray days can definitely drive you a little nuts. So, although, sometimes, the same thing every day out here, you kind of feel like it's Groundhog Day with the sun out all the time. But, yeah, so when I was in Jersey, I was selling LED lighting, energy efficiency, we used to go to any type of commercial building and work with the state rebate program. So I did that for about 20 years. When I came out here, I started to get into the real estate game with my brothers. So that's what we do now. We kind of do property management. We actually own an Airbnb out here as well. So that's kind of my day-to-day stuff. And then hobbies, I used to play softball leagues. I used to play baseball leagues when I was in Jersey. It's been hard to find leagues out here. So I haven't been able, I played in one softball league, which was a church league, which was actually a pretty good league. It was a lot of good players. They were definitely sneaking in guys, randomly, like big shots. But it was a good league. But yeah, I definitely got to get back into it. Like even pick up basketball more, like anything sports related, just like Anthony, fantasy sports, DFS, betting. The NBA playoffs is going on right now. Before that, it was March Madness. I was all over that. I love the tournament. I do a players pool for that. I've been, where you actually draft players from the tournament. I've been doing that since I was like 13 years old. So, yeah, anything sports related, fantasy, or just going out there and playing. That's kind of my main hobbies.
Did a nice playoff contest too, or is that Pete's? Was that what you guys do it together?
For the playoffs,
the NFL playoffs.
Yeah. I did that. Yeah, I put that together. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
Shout out to fantasypostseason.com. That site's been around for a while. My one of my good friends bought that site. So if you want to play postseason fantasy football or basketball or hockey or baseball, you can go to that site.
Nice. All right. So Anthony, when did you start playing fantasy football? How long have you been doing this?
I would say a very long time.
Go ahead.
I guess the interesting story behind it is when I had to be like 10, and
Nice.
my stepdad and my uncle, they would do fantasy football. But in perspective, I'm 40 now. And they would take me to drafts. And I was just always around it. And these were drafts. They were at some guy's house. And the draft order was chosen. This is how far back it goes with the deck of playing cards. The ace was a number one pick, 2, 3, down to 12. But here's the thing here, and this is how different leagues are. There was no snake draft at the time. Every round you drew a card. So you can essentially, if you got lucky, get the first pick.
Yeah, the first.
Yeah. And that's just how it was back then. And obviously it evolved into a snake, but these are the origins of what I remember. And a few years later, I ended up partnering with my stepdad in this same league. And I remember my first draft, and he was a Jets fan, and we drafted, he wanted the Corbett Testaverde stack. And then as I get older, I was a lot more involved. And yeah, so the Corbett Testaverde years, that's how long I've been around this thing.
Nice. Yep. Yeah. That's about when I started. So I like it. That's great.
I can show my age, and maybe Steve, the Jets fan, will recognize his name. One of my first picks in that year was Blair Thomas.
Wow. That was kind of even before. I was probably like 9 years old when Blair Thomas was playing.
Now, was that
because he was hurt? He got hurt right away. It was like, I started calling all the league offices to try to get injury reports, so they must have thought I was a reporter. But of course, we didn't have the internet back then to be able to get injury reports and player statuses. So you had to be creative, and my creativity led to calling every team every week.
All right, Steve. What about you, Steve? How long you been going?
I think my oldest brother, he was the one that got me into it because him and his friends, they played I mentioned that college basketball league. They started that in 1987.
Jeez.
Ronnie Cycli. So they started doing fantasy then. And
NBA Jam legend.
Yeah, I mean, he was good. Syracuse alum. But I was only 5 years old when they started that. But anyway, they started a fantasy football league. Startup Auction League was actually my first league in 1997. I remember I got Terry Allen, Michael Jackson, and John Elway. I remember those three guys specifically on my team. And the only reason I took those guys is because they had the best stats from the year before. I didn't do any, The only thing I looked
Right.
at was just the stats from the year before. I mean, that there wasn't that much information out there.
Yep.
There was no couldn't go to a YouTube, couldn't get tape, so it was just pretty basic like that. But I remember the one guy when I took Terry Allen. I think Terry Allen had 21 touchdowns the year before. He's like, "There's no way Terry Allen's gonna have 21 touchdowns again." And he was right. Terry Allen had 6 touchdowns that year.
I got the same thing. I started that year. I had the number 2 pick. Terrell Davis went 1. Oh, actually, it was 98. Terrell Davis went 1. And then I took Barry Sanders number 2. And everybody in the draft was like, dude, he's just coming off a 2,000-yard season. He's going to bust at pick 2. And I was like, what? He's Barry Sanders guy.
I remember having Barry Sanders. He would get that 80-yard run and get tackled at the 1-yard line, and they bring in Corey Schlesinger,
Tommy Vardell,
whoever
that touchdown Tommy,
whoever that fullback was, and then he would finish it off. And Sanders had 7 touchdowns or something like that. So
nice.
So that's when I started. I've been playing ever since then.
It was Vardell.
That's who it was who kept stealing all Sanders' touchdowns.
Yeah, he was a fullback from 97 and 98 in Detroit.
Yeah.
So, and I asked this question and I wince because I know I get in trouble when I get into too many leagues, but I love hearing it from other people. How many leagues are you in? I'll start with Steve first this time.
Well, I've been, since I've kind of the last couple of years, I've got a little bit more into high stakes, a little bit more and more. So I was up to 50 leagues last year. Which was insane because some of these guys, like Chad. He does 150.
100.
Nelson Susan does over on. I don't know how they do that. 50 is
they do 50, 60 on 4 platforms. I'm like,
right,
what the hell is going on? Right?
It's insane because the fab, Wednesday nights and Friday nights or Saturday nights, it's just you're spending 3-4 hours. Then you got kids. Like I said, I got my mom here every other month, so it's it's just tough to set aside that time. Sometimes you got to prepare a little bit before. Maybe I'll start doing that a little bit more this year, but I don't know if I'm going to hit 50 again this year. Maybe I try to condense it down to maybe 40. I've been trying to get, that's why I'm not in a lot of dynasty leagues because dynasty is tons of work. You got to trade all year. So, and the investment's not that much. So for me, I'd rather just, if I'm going to spend most of my time playing fantasy, it's going to be for a more of an investment. But I still have my main starter leagues, like the league I started when I was, 14, 97, and a couple other ones that I stick through every year. But that's down to 3 or 4 now. The rest is mostly high stakes.
Okay, Anthony, tell us and bring us back down to the earth with the number of leagues.
Not including best ball. Best ball, I don't really count. It's not managing.
Managed leagues.
So managed leagues. Last year, I was hovering just over 30. And similar to Steve, majority of high stakes. I was never a big dynasty player, but through the years, it's kind of grown on me. So I do have a handful of dynasty leagues included. And what I've been really doing is limiting my redraft leagues. And, I would say 95% of my redraft leagues are high stakes. I might have 1 or 2 that are not, and then a few dynasty, but similar to Steve with the high stakes favor. Nice. Again, I enjoy dynasty. Dynasty managers hate me. Great. They hate me because I'm not a trader, right? I don't get off on trades. Right. I'm only trading unless it'll help me. So, so Mike, you can send me all the offers you want, but unless I'm at an advantage, or if I have a need, otherwise I'm not. I don't care. I'm going to trust my draft. I have my process, and that's it. I play dynasty, not similar to redraft. It's hard, but it's I want a competitive team. So if I can flip draft picks and go bring in win now players, 2-3 year windows. My goal in dynasty, right? Because some people, they want to draft a young team and I'll compete in 3 years. No, I want to cash. There's no point in me throwing a league fee in there for a team that's not going to compete.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to compete. And, if I can pocket, some winnings first 2 years, and then let's say because I have a veteran team, it takes a little bit of a nosedive in year 3, I'm already green. So that's my little dynasty strategy, and that's what's got me into it a little bit more because I changed my mindset on it.
The more, and one thing I noticed, the more you play it, and every year, I'm 3 years in now. I only have 2 dynasty teams, but I'm like Steve said, it's a lot of paying attention to, and I don't want to take away what I do in redraft and for the high stake leagues.
There is high stakes dynasty.
I know that, but
that I want to try one of these years.
It's not my forte.
Is there trading?
I'm not there yet.
Is there trading in high stakes dynasty?
I think so.
Yes.
Yeah, because trading could just ruin.
There's no vetoes either.
Trading can ruin leagues, but that's part of dynasty. You know, being the active GM, ripping other people off as much as you can, and getting the best trades possible. You know, I mean, but I just see so much of that, and teams get ruined, and then other teams just get crazy stacked. But that's like how it is in keeper leagues too. So that's the one good thing about high stakes. You're protected from, lopsided trades happening. But dynasty is, shout out to the dynasty community, because those guys, when it comes to the prospects, they're insanely knowledgeable.
You get better and better every year you play it, and you get more into it.
Right.
Like
go ahead.
I learned so much in 3 years. Like and I'm a knowledgeable fantasy football player, and I totally bombed my first dynasty startup. It was terrible.
Yeah, no, I did too. I did too. I think I took Rex Burkhead like this second round or something.
I've done that. Yep.
Like it was my first year. I didn't understand what it was. My cousin got me into it. I'm like, what is this dynasty? I didn't know what the hell it was.
My first ever before I want to keep this question held up. My first ever dynasty draft. I'm still in the league and my team's really good now. But my first 2 draft picks were Jordan Howard and Ty Montgomery the year after he went off on the Packers.
I just
somehow that team is really good now, but man, I set myself back a few years. But that was my first ever startup draft.
Nice. I just saw. I don't know if you guys know.
If
you guys know Mike Leone, he just posted that he traded CeeDee Lamb for Jordan Howard before the season started. So. He was it still haunts me. He was like, it was one of those this still haunts me posts. All right. But anyways, all right. So Anthony, when did you decide you were going to get involved as a fantasy football creator and help people win their fantasy leagues?
I would say I was in the core business, sales, management, most of my 20s. Then, most people know my story. I got into a car accident, had neck surgery, and coming out of it, it was like, man, it was life altering. And it's like, I can always go back to the car business, right? I'm a good salesman. I always have a fallback job, but what I really love is football. I really wanted to be a radio guy, like an NFL radio guy, just general football, but I saw fantasy as an easier path. And that's what I chose to get my foot in the door, and it kind of just stuck. But I really just wanted to be like, just a sports talk NFL guy.
Nice. Absolutely. That's great. That's great to do what you're passionate about. And I love it. Steve, what about you?
I remember years ago, I started on my own little thing on Blog Talk Radio. I know Anthony remembers that. It was like people could actually call in. Yeah, you could take callers, and it was just an easy thing to use. And then I started my own little website, at fantasysavvy.com. I think I started in like 2000, I don't know, maybe 9 or something, 2010. I ran that for a couple of years. Then I got married and I took a bigger role at my job. So I kind of wasn't doing as much. Then I jumped on with these guys. I don't know if you remember the Fantasy Pros 911. It was like
I heard of them.
Yeah, Paul Greco and Patrick DeCaprio. They were pretty big for a while. They were on Sirius. I worked with them for like 2-3 years, and then they kind of just went debunked. And then I kind of did my own thing on the side. I wasn't doing too much. And then all of a sudden, Anthony shot me a message through Twitter and said, I like the fact that you had your own site. He's like, do you want to come on? I'm like, well, what's the obligation? He's like, no obligation. He's just like, we'll just go on whenever you can. And that was it. And that was during the pandemic, which was good because, during the pandemic, you didn't have much to do. You couldn't go places. Everything was closed. There was no sports on. So when sports started to come back again, it was good. And that was kind of right before I moved to Florida. So yeah, I've been doing that face-off stuff for 4 years. This is going to be the 5th year now.
Nice. We had Mike last week, and Mike also was kind enough to be a guest on the show I do that focuses on charity. And y'all do, or in the past, y'all did the FF Face Off Mental Health Podathon, which, what an important topic. I mean, we all struggle with, challenges throughout our life, and the fact that you're encouraging people to talk about it, and, especially with members of the fantasy community and Hayden Hurst Foundation. So hopefully y'all are going to be working on that coming up. I think Hoff said that at least the plan is to go forward again with it this year. So any of your own thoughts on the Podathon?
Yeah, I was a part of it a couple years ago, but usually when they have it, I'm usually traveling back up to Jersey in the summer, and they've been doing it in the summer. So I think I missed it last year or 2 years ago, but I was definitely on it. I think it's a great thing as well. I mean, mental health, is something we all got to deal with. So yeah, it's good to just share your story, get it out there. So yeah, it's a very important thing. And, I believe we're going to definitely rock it out again.
Awesome. Anthony?
Yeah, hopefully the guys bring it back, and if they do, that is something that I would obviously be a part of. But like for me, like being a part of that, and that's a very long 24 hours. It started out 24 straight hours, and then we felt like it was more optimal to break it up 12 hours Saturday, 12 hours Sunday. Because that overnight, you're really only hitting a few people overseas if they're awake. But it helped me because through the years, it got me to open up and challenge some of my mental health struggles and things like that. So it was an awesome cause to be a part of, but it also brought me into, my own mental health struggles, got them out of me, therapy, and I'm in a much better place now than I was, before we even had it.
Awesome. And great work that the entire team has been doing, and looking forward to it going forward. Also, another big charity league that most people have heard of is the Scott Fish Bowl. Are you both going to be participating? Are you going to be involved in any live drafts?
I participated in it for like 2 years, and I probably should get back into it. But again, if I can't be competitive, then I feel like, maybe I should just join it just to join it, even if I come in like last place. But I just do so many leagues. So that's kind of what frayed me away from, just made me, stay away from it the past couple of years. But maybe I should get back into it because I did do it for a couple of years. That's another great cause as well.
Yeah, you don't go in thinking you're going to win.
You at least donate, right, Steve?
Oh yeah, I donate all the time. Every time. Well, that's the other thing. Like I all the RotoWire OCs. Every time, like I definitely donated like 5 or 6 times last year. For sure.
Yeah, I love that option.
Yeah,
So those who don't know, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure you see it on other platforms. But when you register for a high stakes event, it gives you the option to donate to Fantasy Kiss. On top of it, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so I do donate. But maybe I should jump back in. I did another one. The Raz Bowl last year. But that was a little bit easier because it was like best ball for like the first 12 weeks or something. Then it turned into setting the lineup. So, I try to at least get into one charity event.
And Anthony, are you in which league are you in?
Yeah, I'm in the Scott Fish Bowl. This will be, I think, my year 3 in the live New York City draft. I'm in Jersey. We don't have a live draft. So I take a little bit trip to New York. It's not that bad. I've been in Scott Fish Bowl, I think, since SFB 8 or 9. So, it's one of the few, similar to Steve, right? Like, I try to limit free leagues, but Scott Fish Bowl is different. It's charities for a great cause. So, of course, I'll be in it. And I'm also in the Raz Bowl as well. Nice. But they're really the only 2 industry leagues I'm involved in at this point. It's just time, right? Like when you're investing in high stakes, it's an investment that should really dominate your time.
Sure.
And what about the Fantasy Football Expo? You guys been, or you guys plan on going at any point this year?
I've never been. This might be the year that I finally get there. My thing is with my, spine and neck injuries, the car ride. It's like 8 hours, right?
You wouldn't fly?
That's the thing. I have found flights that are pretty not bad price wise, so that might be an option. But like to be in a car for that long,
what about get you like the Anthony bus instead of the Madden bus? You get the Anthony bus and lay back. Get a nice massage on there. You fucking roll in there, come out the bus. Everybody's like, who the hell is this guy?
But like a flight from Philly into Cleveland, I mean, it's like 2 hours. It's easy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I didn't go. I haven't been there yet. I was thinking about going last year. I don't know if I'm going to be able to go this year. We'll see. I don't know. That seems like another really cool thing. And it's getting more and more popular as well. And Canton is a cool spot. I've been to Canton once. I worked in Cleveland for like a summer, and I went to Canton, the Hall of Fame there, and thought the Hall of Fame itself was better than Cooperstown. I think Cooperstown obviously is a much better location. Like Canton's right off a highway, but the actual Hall of Fame itself, I thought was pretty awesome.
Nice. Me and Rick will be going for the first time this year.
Nice.
Looking forward. I joined the Fans Classic. I'm in a super flex draft. I'll be drafting at the Hall of Fame, which is kind of cool. So
that's awesome. Yeah. You're gonna play in the flag football league, or the flag football
flag football, no. Flag football, no. But I will play poker.
And they're not going to have a football game this year, so it's going to be
too many injuries. Too many people getting hurt. That's because everybody's probably drinking the night before. They're all freaking dehydrated. They're pulling hammies.
Yeah,
cramping up.
And if Anthony goes, I know who I want to have on in the center of my line. Since
that's right.
Both on offense and defense. He'll be the middle linebacker on the team, and he's going to be the
who's tackling him? Give him the ball.
Right. All right. I mean,
you got to take his legs out. It's the best. That's your best chance.
All right. So you guys have favorite teams, right? I know Anthony's Dallas. Steve, I had to reach out to ask you because I wasn't sure. You were big on the Bills last year, so I wasn't sure which. I had a feeling it was a New York team, though.
Yeah.
So for Steve, it's the Jets. We'll start with Anthony on this one. Why don't you give us a brief outlook? What you think is a brief outlook for the Dallas Cowboys in 2025?
I mean, initially, I'm not going to lie, I was very low on my Cowboys. Bad year last year. Brian Schottenheimer, not big fan. Going into the draft, I was convinced we're going to get skill position players, even though they had needs, right, where they drafted. And the positions that they drafted, especially in the first 3 rounds, are normally positions that they hit on. So after I let the draft marinate, I was happy with it. And then George Pickens happened. And when George Pickens happened, I bought right back in because the initial rumors was like Amari Cooper. I'm like, all right, I'm done with this. Right? But Pickens could be a game changer. All of a sudden, I'm buying back into the Cowboys fantasy. I think that they could be potentially more competitive overall. We know Dak can get this team, to 12 wins, 10 wins fairly easily when he's healthy. So I'm back in on Dallas. Do I think they're going to make any type of Super Bowl run? Probably not. But are they going to be a much improved team than last year? Yeah, they should be, as long as Ford can stay healthy.
All right. Does Jaden Blue have the potential to be the next Bucky Irvin? Why don't you tell us a little bit about him?
I mean, I don't know about the next Bucky Irving. I don't know if their size really comps out, but Blue, terrific pass catcher, explosive, burst speed. That's really what Jaden Blue does well. And this Cowboys backfield's wide open. For the past few years, we've seen them bring in retreads like Ronald Jones, Dalvin Cook, Royce Freeman. These guys don't even see the field. They're practice squad guys. This year, it's Javonte Williams, Miles Sanders. I'm not saying both aren't going to make the team, but I think there's a really good chance we're looking at a Javonte Williams, Jaden Blue-led backfield. And if Blue works out, I think he can ultimately lead this running back room in touches, where a guy like Miles Sanders, he might be the this year's Royce Freeman and Dalvin Cook, where he's just a practice squad guy. He hasn't been relevant since a couple years ago in Philly. So I have high aspirations in Blue, and as long as the ADP stays suppressed, I'm going to have quite a bit of him in fantasy.
So originally I was going to ask about George Pickens, and you kind of gave that one away already. But on the defensive side, what happened to Parsons, and do you expect him to bounce back this year?
I don't know is it what happened to Parsons, or because you could still make an impact on the game
without making sacks.
Yeah, because you got to get double teams. They're going to block you and open things up for other players to make plays. I think they're ultimately going to sign him, get that done. We know Jerry likes to take his time. I mean, Dak didn't sign until like a couple hours before the game, it seemed like. CD the week before last year. I think that's going to get done. We should see a bounce back from Micah Parsons. They got a little bit younger on defense. They drafted an edge rusher, I believe, in the third round this year. And they have, I'm drawing a blank, who their breakout player was last year. Let me pull it up on defense. But overall, I like their front seven. Overshawn, and they have a ton of talent on the back end of their defense. So I'm fairly optimistic. And I like Mike Eberflus a lot. It didn't work out in Chicago, but Eberflus as a defensive coordinator, when people don't remember, I believe Eberflus was in Dallas, maybe with Parcells and Sean Payton way back when. But I know Eberflus had a stint in Dallas years ago, and I think he's a pretty good defensive coordinator. So I think he'll get that side of the ball down. Like last year, who's it? Zimmer? Like, the dude was out of football. And that's who you bring in to run your defense. Last year was a disaster.
I agree. It was a disaster. So what I want to know is Dak Prescott, where he's going right now. He's going in like the 12th round of fantasy football drafts. Is that's like a screaming value to me. Like last year's Baker Mayfield type of value. Now, I'm not saying he can finish QB. He'll finish QB3, but he certainly has the upside if he plays a full 17 games. That's what I believe. I've always said Dak is quite a serviceable fantasy football starting quarterback for you if he's healthy.
Yeah, I'm back in on – again, I was out on Dak until Pickens. I think Pickens gives Dak his best wide receiver duo since – Amari Cooper and Lamb, but when they were together, I believe Lamb was a rookie, so that he never really had those two where CeeDee Lamb was thriving like he is now, and Cooper was in his prime. So they never really matched up. It gives two explosive wide receivers in their prime. This offense could be really good, and we know Dak. If you look. And Jim Coventry, my partner over at RotoWire, brings this up all the time. It's an irrelevant stat, but it's worth noting that if you look year over year, every other year Dak Prescott goes off or he's injured. Well, last year was that injury bad year. This year, if you look at the trend, again, it's a useless trend because anything can happen. But if you're superstitious, buy into it. By all means, buy into it. I am.
Yeah, and I think Lamb and Pickens really complement each other too. So, I'd be optimistic. And then I know that Joe's going to ask a question about
Kevontae Turpin, legitimate weapon.
I love Turpin. I'm really intrigued to see if he does like a Rashid Shaheed type of step up this year and drops like 18s and 22s. The first few weeks.
I kind of like Turpin. He is fast. So, I like the Shaheed comparison. He's kind of like a Shaheed type of player.
Jake Ferguson. Do we still think he can give us tight end one? Can we start him every week in and week out?
Yes. And I get that there's the extra body in terms of Pickens who's going to eat those targets. But Dak Prescott since he's been in Dallas, he's always produced a fantasy productive tight end.
Agree.
You know, that's the safety net, the safety blanket. And I think Ferguson is going to be reliable. I don't know if he has like top 5, top 8 upside, but can he be that like 9 to 12 type of finish in PPR? Absolutely. I think he'll get enough volume.
I like it because when they had, was it Cooper and Lamb, they had Dalton Schultz emerge pretty well.
Yep.
I remember picking him up in one league, and he was the reason why I won the league, actually, because it was the only position piece that I was missing.
And now we go from the optimism of the Cowboys to Steve. Tell us about the Jets.
Well, yeah, it's been a miserable experience being a Jet fan. I became a Jet fan like 96 when Parcells was there. When I was young, the first Super Bowl I remember watching was the Niners Bengals in like 89, but then the year after that was the Scott Norwood miss, and I kind of liked the Giants a little bit. I liked Parcells. I like the Giants, but then he left, and then this guy Ray Hanley came in. He had these terrible glasses, and they sucked. He reminded me of my second grade teacher. So I was like, all right, I can't root for this team anymore. And I didn't really have a team for a while. Both of my brothers are huge Cowboy fans. I'm like, I can't pick the Cowboys. They look like the biggest bandwagon. That was the time they were winning. So then when Parcells came to the Jets, Curtis Martin, Corbett, Keyshawn.
You stole Curtis Martin.
Yeah, we did. Man. Well, we took a couple guys from the Patriots, and that's what Parcells did. And, that's when I fell in love with the Jets, man. Corbett was from Garfield, New Jersey. I live right next to that town in Elmwood Park. So, I felt the familiarity there. So, yeah. But then, it was good. Rex, beat the Patriots. We got to the AFC Championship game. I always liked Herm. But then the butt fumble happened. And after the butt fumble, I really just lost, all my hope and taste for I became, like most Jets fans, who are just miserable and just expect the worst from this team every single year. So ever since the butt fumble that kind of happened, and then when they drafted Zach Wilson, I was like, all right, I kind of like Zach Wilson. I got a little hope, but then he didn't turn out the way it was. I didn't like Sam Darnold. I wanted them to take Josh Allen, and that's kind of why I always root for the Bills, because I always wanted the Jets to take Allen. But now they got my other favorite quarterback, or one of my other favorite quarterbacks in the league, in Fields. So I'm excited. I feel like, and Aaron Glenn is the coach. I always loved Aaron Glenn. He's he played for the Jets. He came from the Parcells tree. Just came from Dan Campbell. Just came from a really good Lions team. So I like what the Jets are doing. I don't like Woody Johnson. I don't trust Woody Johnson. I sold my Johnson & Johnson shares. But he definitely ekes me the wrong way, and I'm waiting for Gary V to take over at one point.
Yes.
He always says he wants to buy the Jets. But I got optimism and I got excitement back, and that's all I can ask for. And I'm looking at their schedule. I feel like they could go 10-7. I feel like they could maybe even go 11-6. I don't think, compared to the Giants, which is a much worse schedule in my opinion, I think the Jets have a pretty decent chance to win 10 games. So, I'm optimistic and I'm happy. And Hoff was actually at the Marty Lyons event in Long Island. I won a Field signed helmet there in an auction. It just got that delivered a couple weeks ago. So I'll be putting that in the background soon.
That's a sign, Steve. I love Fields too. I sold the 2026 first round pick for him in Superflex.
Nice. Sweet.
I needed a quarterback. You know what I mean? It wasn't like I was adding them for depth. I needed a quarterback.
I mean, when it comes to fantasy,
yeah,
he is solid. I mean, in the NFL, he's definitely inconsistent. He's got a problem with fourth quarter. He could start out hot and then he kind of duds out and he doesn't step up in the second half a lot of the times. But he hasn't ever been in a great situation. So, the offensive line in Chicago always been miserable for the most part until the end. He never really had many weapons until the end. They finally got DJ Moore, and then they just let him go, and they inserted the Prince out of nowhere. Caleb Williams comes in, they just lay out the red carpet for him, and they let Justin Fields just go. So I feel like he got a raw deal there in Chicago because he's a tough dude, man. I seen him take a lot of hits and he just gets back up. he played in all those conditions very well as well. So, well, time will tell, but I feel like it was a mistake to move on from him. And I'm happy the Jets got him now.
Yeah, when he got sat down last year for Pittsburgh, they were 4-2, I believe.
Right, and it started out good with Wilson. It started out good, but then it didn't end well. But
no,
it probably would have been similar.
They were 500 the rest of the way, right? I believe.
Yeah. I think they lost like 4 or 5 in a row down the
stretch.
stretch.
To be fair, their defense began to collapse towards the end.
Yeah, and their offense was, and then Pickens had his own issues, and their offense was so predictable. Yeah. Run first down, run second down. Always in bad third and long. So, it was a terrible situation. And besides Pickens, they didn't have any other weapons. It was Freiermuth was good, but and then like even when Fields was out there, they were like playing Pickens like 60% of the time. Like they weren't even put him out there all the time, which is weird. So, but yeah, I'm excited about the Jets. I love the Fields. I love Aaron Glenn. But as a Jets fan, you learn to never get your hopes up because you always get shot back down. But maybe
I will say this though, Steve. I do think the AFC East is wide open this year.
Yeah, and also one of the things as an IDP player, the Jets have a solid defense. They've got a good defensive line. They've got a good defensive backfield. Again, so they'll be in games. It's just whether or not now they have the weapons to be able to compete. And as Joe said, the Miami is not a good team. The Patriots are not a good team. The Bills, good team. But
but beatable.
Yeah, the Bills, they didn't add anything on offense really, and Bean was like wilding out on people because of that. But they definitely, they got some more defensive pieces, and that's kind of been their issue in the playoffs. I mean, letting up a ton of points in the playoffs, their offense has never really been a problem. But you can't rest in your laurels. I mean, Josh Allen. I mean, he's the main reason why they're scoring 30 points. You got to somehow add more weapons. I mean, they added Elijah Moore and freaking Josh Palmer. I mean, it's just going to be another. And that's the thing for the Bills in fantasy. Like last year, I was like, all right, I'll stack Allen with this guy, that guy. But you don't know who the hell he's going to throw the ball to every week. So it's just going to be a scatter of different
Allen.
Guys.
You want naked Allen.
Naked Allen. Yeah, exactly. That's the way I'm doing it with Allen this year. I'm just going naked. Maybe a little James Cook. That's about it. Maybe Kincaid. I think he maybe could step up, but yeah, probably just him and Cook.
Nice. All right. So I want to go over Breece Hall and Mason Taylor real quick. So Mason Taylor, do you think he has a shot at becoming the number 2 target, pass catching target?
Yeah. I mean, I think so. I mean, they don't really have much else outside of Garrett Wilson. Taylor, I didn't really do a deep dive on him fully yet, but he kind of looked like a Dalton Schultz, maybe like a better Dalton Schultz to me, kind of like a smooth player, soft hands, probably a little more burst than Dalton Schultz as well. So I feel like it was a good pick. Last year, I wanted them to take Bowers. I did want them to take Tyler Warren this year, but they took the offensive lineman and they took Taylor later. So yeah, I feel like Taylor could step up. I feel like he'll be a nice target for Fields. So yeah, I'm intrigued by Taylor. I'll definitely be drafting him as the season goes on. As far as Breece, yeah, last year was tough. I mean, he was a first round pick. And now he's going like in the 3rd round. So
yeah, is he getting lost in that 3rd round? Like the 3rd round is loaded with like secure fantasy options this year. So is he getting lost?
Yeah, the second and 3rd round, or if you can get him even in the 4th round. Yeah, the 4th
round would be a dream. The 3-4 turn.
Yeah,
and you have
yeah. But like the 2nd and 3rd round is always like you always get burnt in those rounds. You take guys, they don't really do anything for you, and sometimes we get caught in the ADP and just like, oh, we got to take this guy in the 2nd round, we got to take this guy in the 3rd round because he's going this time. But you don't have to always do that. Just but like Breece, man, I definitely will dive back into him now with Fields. We all know about how running quarterbacks open things up for guys that, they're improving their offensive line every single year. The last 2 years in the draft, they've taken an offensive line in the 1st round. So, yeah, I think I'm back in on Breece. I think the offense will be better as a whole. So yeah, 3rd round, I think is a good value. And even right now I'm looking at the RotoWire, looks like the RotoWire OC, looks like in some spots he's going early 4th. So that's not bad either.
Awesome. All right. So,
okay. So now I guess we can actually talk about fantasy football, at least the section of the show where we're going to get your guys' takes on, right now we're right in the middle of the rookie draft season. In fact, I've done 9 in the last week.
Nice.
So why don't you give us one player in each round that you guys are targeting or plan to target, and tell us why.
In rookie drafts.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so give us one player from the first round, like by one player that have you done a rookie draft yet?
Yeah, I've done a few of them so far.
Okay, so give us a player you took in the first round, second round, third round, and fourth round. One player that you like.
So first round wise, it was a super flex league, and I needed a quarterback. And Cam Ward actually fell, and I will say fell at the 5th pick. And this is a super flex league.
Yeah, obviously, I took him number 2, so yeah, that's
other teams maybe didn't need a quarterback, but I was going to go elsewhere. But I'm like, man, I have the need here, and at 105, I feel like I would call that a steal because I did not expect Cam Ward to drop. I thought I was going to have to address my quarterback position a little bit later with a Jackson Dart or somebody like that. So I was extremely happy with that. In the second round, again, in that same super flex draft, I did come back and this is tight end premium. I went with Mason Taylor. This is a player from the Jets. We just talked about him. I'm a little bit higher on. Of the rookie tight end landing spots, he has the clearest path to opportunity, fewer competition for targets around him in that offense. So I thought that was a nice comeback. So 2 of my biggest needs in that super flex league were addressed in my first 2 rounds. And then in round 3, I did get Jaden Blue. We just talked about him a little bit earlier. I'm extremely high on him in Dallas. Another player with a path to opportunity early. And I'm drawing a blank on who my 4th round pick was.
No worries. Those are dart throws anyway. So
yeah.
Okay, Steve.
But if you want me to throw out a 4th round pick that I like, and it all depends on obviously drafts and who you're the type of draft and your league mates. But I really, really like Rashard Smith of the Kansas City Chiefs. He steps into that Jerick McKinnon role with his skill set, and that was a role that the Chiefs really missed last year.
Yep.
They didn't address the running back position. They got Pacheco coming back. Kareem Hunt, what is he at this point? They brought in Eli Mitchell. I think Rashard Smith could be one of the bigger sleeper running backs that you could throw in your flex spot every week.
Nice.
Awesome. Like it.
Steve?
Yeah, I haven't done any rookie drafts yet. I really haven't finished my rookie, process yet. I still got a ton of tape to watch. But if Cam Ward in a super flex league could fall to you, I mean, that's like a no-brainer. Judkins in Cleveland is intriguing, obviously. That seems like something I would buy into. Tyler Warren, if he could fall, I know everybody's kind of like, oh, I don't want Tyler Warren because Richardson or Jones is going to be throwing the ball. But I watched pretty much all of his tape, and the way he was utilized at Penn State. I mean, he was utilized a lot of wildcat. He ran the ball a lot. He threw the ball a lot. They just got him so involved in the offense. I mean, he was just being manufactured touch after touch. So I feel like Steichen is going to do a good job of getting him involved in the offense. And I feel like Warren could finish with 4 or 5 touchdowns, passing. I feel like there's a path to that possibly. I feel like they're going to utilize him in that way, especially if Richardson's the starter. I think they'll find creative ways. So I think Warren, when most of the fantasy community is going to be out on him or maybe fade him, he's kind of a guy that I'm kind of intrigued by. Cam Scatterbo, I just love his energy, his passion. Watching him in the bowl game against, I think it was Texas, when he ran that route. I mean, he ran that route like a receiver. He gave the little inside jab and he bounced out to the outside and he went up and came down with a ball. You don't see a lot of running backs do that. So you could just tell he's a true baller and he kind of fits the Giants mold. So I like him in the second round. Or Jack Beck. Me and Anthony were talking about him previously. Kind of reminds me a little bit like maybe like a Cooper Kupp type player. I got to see a little bit more of him, but definitely high energy player. I like the fact that, the way he finished off that bowl game after his brother, passed away in tragic in New Orleans, January 1st. I mean, that was just insane. But, he's definitely got a chip on his shoulder, and he the way he finished that bowl game, catching the winning touchdown. So those are some of the guys. And Kyle Williams, New England, man, watching him, I thought he was one of the smoothest receivers. I don't think this class, like I was looking for a Brian Thomas or a Ladd. I really haven't found that yet. But Kyle Williams, I think he's definitely got something. I think Drake May's definitely got some good weapons this year with him and Diggs. So, I like Williams as well.
Yeah, I think other than Hunter, you're looking at a bunch of wide receiver 2s or 3s.
Yeah, one more guy is Harold Fannin Jr. Maybe like in the third round. This guy, another high energy player. Like he led college football in receiving last year. He played safety and receiver in high school, and then he converted to tight end in college. And he's a beast. You turn on his tape. I mean, this guy just looks different. So that's a guy, if I can get in the third round or, even like the late second, that's a guy I'm going to go after too.
Nice.
All right. So we're going to move into the positions, and we're going to ask you to give us one guy you're in on.
And this is redraft.
Yeah, 2025. Yeah, 2025 redraft. Give us a guy. We'll start with a quarterback. Give us one quarterback who you're in for, and give us some reasons why. Anthony, go first.
So does it matter where we're taking him, or just any?
That could be part of the reason why you're in on him. One quarterback. You think if if you're picking him because if you're going for a different type of build, maybe you're waiting for a quarterback, but or you're in on him elite. Like, just give us one.
Well, we already talked about Dak. So this year I like quite a few quarterbacks in that quarterback 10 to 15 range. Trevor Lawrence. You can get him a little bit later, and you're not drafting him to be your quarterback one, but he would be like a tandem piece. I have quite a few builds already with Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence, Dak and Trevor Lawrence, Caleb Williams and Trevor Lawrence. And I want a lot of Trevor Lawrence. We've seen him in the past perform at a pretty good level for fantasy. I just think it got stale with Press Taylor and Doug Peterson. They bring in Travis Hunter. I'm obviously going to buy into Liam Cohen as I've done last year with Tampa Bay, and I think he can resurrect the career and the entire offense of the Jacksonville Jaguars. I like what that team is doing overall, bringing in Gladstone, the general manager from the Rams organization. I think Jacksonville is finally getting things right. So I'm buying back into their fantasy assets, and Trevor Lawrence, to me, one of the better values on the board.
Nice. I want to shout out the chat. James, appreciate you joining, man. Everybody, Sniper Mel. We haven't done that yet, Rick, so I'll give them a shout out. Appreciate everybody in there.
Okay, Steve, a quarterback you like?
Again, anywhere kind of in the draft. Well, I'll just say, I think, what was it, 2 years ago, Joe, we had to pay the premium for Lamar and Allen and Mahomes. And last year it kind of fell back again, and now you got to pay the premium in third round for Lamar and Allen, which I don't mind doing. But this year I would say, looking at the value, Mahomes in the sixth round, that's pretty good. And even Baker in the seventh round. So I like those two. Other than that, Fields in the 12th round, and even Anthony Richardson in the 15th round. I think it's just, if you take him as your second guy, with the amount of upside that he can bring, I think in the 15th round, when people are taking defenses at that point, why not? So, just playing the board like that.
Yeah, I like the Mahomes. He had always been top 1, 2, or 3, and then all of a sudden, kind of
He's
fallen.
6th round. I mean, it's understandable because people got burnt, right? I mean,
and he wasn't passing as much, and he was doing a lot of flip passes and other things that were more trick plays. But I think this year with Rice is going to play. I mean, it looks like Rice is going to, play this season, and then they also have Xavier Worthy, who kicked it, into high gear in the last 9 games, I guess it was, or at least the last 8 games. And then Hollywood should be back. So he's got a pretty good set of weapons. I think Kelsey's probably going to rest until the playoffs, but I think
Noah Gray's pretty good. I mean, he got burnt. He got killed. He got killed last year. I mean, Hollywood got hurt. Rice had his issue. So yeah, I mean, it was just, and then Worthy was just a rookie, and we saw from Rice the previous year, it takes a little while for these Kansas City receivers to get going. So yeah, I mean, 6th round for Mahomes, I mean, that's money to me.
And even Pacheco's going to help, I think, because he'll be healthy again at the start of the season, and that should help open up both the running and the passing game. So
yeah.
Okay, and Joe.
Running backs. Anthony.
I'm sorry. Yeah, running backs. It's like I took over quarterbacks. So sure, running back.
Yeah. So a running back I've been in on since he was drafted, Devin Achane. I'm going to keep attacking Devin Achane. He wins me fantasy leagues, cashes, tournaments, whatever you want to call it. Back-to-back years, top 6 in points per game. Last year, we saw Devin Achane really emerge as a pass catcher, 78 receptions. They lined him up all over the formation. And with the defense has taken away the big play over the top, we saw guys like Jonnu Smith and Achane really thrive. And now Waddle's not really reliable. Tyreek, who knows what's going on in that situation. I think we're going to see another season of Devin Achane getting, he almost reminds me of that Alvin Kamara target share from years ago, and he's still getting it. That's that missing piece where the argument against Achane was, well, he didn't really catch a lot of passes, and can he stay healthy as an in-between? Well, now he's getting those targets, and he's holding up. He doubled his workload 103 to 203 in terms of rushing attempts. So he's getting it all over the place. And he's also getting used touchdown-wise. Goes from 11 touchdowns to 12 touchdowns, still hyper efficient. And I think this is Devin Achane's offense. Like initially, 2 years ago, this offense ran through Tyreek Hill. That's not the case anymore. This Miami Dolphins offense runs through Devin Achane, and it's almost like he has that CMC type of role for Mike McDaniel.
And Jalen Wright, not much use last year, but do you think that he's going to get more use this year?
Mostert's gone. They brought in Alexander Madison. They have Jalen Wright. Like, as long as Achane is playing at a high level and he's healthy, it is hard for me to see them take him off the field.
Yeah.
Watch out for Jeff Wilson. Watch out for Jeff Wilson.
I think he's gone too.
He's still lurking around, I think.
Well, they drafted Ollie Gordon. I guess it's going to be the Mostert replacement. So
no, they brought in Madison. It might be Madison.
Madison actually quietly played well last year. Not for he did. All right, so Steve, you're running back.
Anthony, I'm surprised you didn't mention your boy Najee.
I'm still deciding where I am since they drafted Hampton, but I still like Najee. His ADP dropped, and he's going to get you. It's a 1-year deal. I still think Najee is going to get run, especially in that backfield in a Greg Roman offense. There's going to be a lot of carries to be had for both of them.
That's what I was thinking.
Plus, I can see Najee more in the pass catching back role in this offense.
Yeah, no, I think they'll utilize Hampton there too. But I mean, Hampton's going 2 rounds above Najee. I feel like I'd rather have Najee. I mean, I don't know. I looked at Hampton. I wasn't like totally wowed by them. I got to watch him again. It's still early in the process, but you're telling me Najee Harris 2-round discount against Hampton. I think I'd rather have Najee in that case. I know people, it's, we're in rookie fever, right? Yeah. Rookie fever right now. So now is the time to get the value. So yeah, Najee, another one, Kyron in the third. I think last year was mostly going in the second round. So now he's a round later. People still don't really truly believe him. Even James Cook is up a round from last year. He was 4th round mostly last year, but they're going to sign him. They're going to get him in the building. And, I went to the Dolphins Bills game last year in Miami and watching Cook and Davis, and I like Davis a lot, but there was a clear separation in talent between the two. And I think Davis could take a bigger role, but you got Ty Johnson, who played a big role for the Bills last year. But I think James Cook is going to be that guy once again. So I'll gladly play the 3rd round for him, along with Chase Brown and even Jacobs. I feel like all those guys are pretty solid picks in the 3rd round.
Nice. And so let's go to wide receiver. Anthony, do you have a favorite wide receiver you target?
Yeah, I think at cost, I'm going to go back into the Chris Godwin pool. Yes, he's coming off the injury, but last year, pre-injury, 19.7 fantasy points per game, which was a career high. I know Cohen's gone, but I think they did promote from within, so I can see possibly a similar offense. It's going to be a high-volume passing attack. Defense is a little bit, iffy, getting older, a little bit turnover there. So they're going to have to throw the football, and Chris Godwin should be a big part of that. Listen, I get they drafted Buka. They still have Mike Evans, who's, eventually he's going to fall off that cliff or start to decline, and Jalen McMillan. But Godwin was a stud last year. Now,
yeah, when they moved
at
into
that
the
pace,
slot.
I mean, he should have always been in the slot. I don't know why they ever moved him out of the slot, because that's where he's always thrived, in that power slot role. So I'm going to bank on, at that cost, right around 53 ADP on Underdog. He's going to sky past that ADP in terms of a return if he can stay healthy.
Nice. Steve?
I'm looking at Brandon Ayuk, 8th round. I mean, he could clearly be the number 1 guy in San Francisco. Now, I do like Juwan Jennings too. Juwan Jennings is an underrated player, but he's going in the 6th. You get Ayuk 2 rounds later, maybe 3 rounds later. He's kind of being discounted now. He's coming back from a major injury. That's something to obviously consider. But I mean, he should get up and going. I just feel like that's a good value there. But I do like Jennings in the 6th as well.
Is there a world that Ricky Pearsall might actually become the wide receiver 1 there?
I kind of feel like, I mean, it's possible maybe if Ayuk struggles with injuries, but I feel like Jennings is going to be over Pearsall. So I like Jennings and Ayuk more than Pearsall. I feel like Pearsall is more of the 3rd guy. I kind of wanted the Niners to draft Ladd, but Pearsall, to all his credit, I mean, he came back from absolute tragedy and he really played well down the stretch. So there's a world where he could step up to maybe the number 2, but I don't know about the number 1.
Yeah, you have to consider CMC's targets are back in the picture too, along with Kittle.
True.
So
or as long as CMC's playing.
True. Oh, that's also true. Yeah.
Let's say they're going to have to throw the ball a lot more than people think, because that defense, they lost way too many pieces to play at that level of a few years ago. I get they're bringing Salah back to the DC, but they've been gutted on the defensive side of the football. So they're going to have to throw.
And could that boost Brock as being, more of a weapon as opposed to more as, I don't want to say game manager because it's kind of used as a slur sometimes, but
CMC at the end of the 1st round that could be a league-winning pick for sure.
Yeah.
All right, so tight end. Give us a tight end, Anthony.
So tight end's a little bit more.
This is the good one. Yeah, you got to pick a good one.
For me, normally, I like going after the late tight end. Last year, I attacked early tight end, especially in the FFPC, and it blew up in my face. So I'm going back to my normal strategy, which is trying to find the late tight end. But this year, and this is something else Steve and I talked about earlier, Mark Andrews is at a value right now.
He is.
Right?
He is. I'll agree. Yeah.
I'm going to have a lot of Mark Andrews at cost, especially if he falls below cost. He was hyper efficient last year, which does worry me. Is he going to be able to score that many touchdowns if that passing volume don't go up? And it's hard to say yes to that, but I feel like as long as Derrick Henry is playing like he did last year in that backfield with obviously Lamar Jackson, how are you as a defensive coordinator going to say, okay, we're going to take away the pass? How do you do that? You have to focus on stopping that backfield, which makes the passing game more efficient. So, yeah, at that cost, I'll 100% go back into Mark Andrews.
Nice. Steve?
Yeah, I was going to say Mark Andrews. I agree. 9th round for him. That's pretty solid. But I'll say, I'm looking here, 14th round, the RotoWire OC, Tucker Kraft. I mean, I think that's a great value. I mean, this guy is solid. I mean, he was one of Love's favorite targets. He completely outplayed Luke Musgrave. He took snaps away from him, even though Musgrave was drafted before him. Kraft was the better player. So, yeah, I like Kraft. That's a really good value pick. I mean, it's a little, Love wasn't the best last year, but he was struggling with injuries. It started with that freaking game in Sao Paulo with that terrible field, and he tore his MCL, and he kind of wasn't the same all year. And then they spread the ball around, but Christian Watson's going to be out. I think Kraft, and I know they drafted Golden, but I think Kraft is still going to be maybe the first or second target there. So 14th round, I like that.
And are there players or two players that you would fade, at their current cost?
So players that I am fading. I think right now, Terry McLaurin's one of them. And McLaurin obviously had his best season of his career. But if you actually go year over year, the only category where McLaurin actually had a significant rise was touchdowns. The rest of his stat line was fairly the same to the rest of his career. So if there was a touchdown regression, then I think Terry McLaurin could potentially be a bust compared to where he's drafted. You also have to factor in Deebo Samuel into the mix. And they Michael Gallup, who knows what he is, early retirement. Maybe he's a thing. He was a solid number 3 receiver in Dallas. They also brought in KJ Osborne, who's obviously a better blocking receiver than receiving receiver, but just a little bit more competition there. But it's mostly Deebo. And again, a touchdown regression from Terry McLaurin, that could really affect his return. And then you want a second one for me. Let's see. Who do I want to talk about? Here's one I'm on Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers, every year, I don't understand the hype. I think Steve likes Zay Flowers. We probably have this argument a few times.
So you have to draft them properly, I think.
I just, compared to where you're getting him, if you look at the players going around him, right, 48th player off the board, wide receiver 27, I'd rather have DK Metcalf. And I'm normally not a DK Metcalf guy, and I get the quarterback situation in Pittsburgh is not great. But and Jim Coventry painted this picture well. Let's say they throw for 2,600 yards. Somebody's got to go catch some of those yards. DK Metcalf's really all they have. So I'd rather have DK Metcalf over a guy like Zay Flowers. I feel like Zay Flowers is capped. Nice PPR guy, but in terms of there is no red zone usage. We saw it last year. The red zone usage goes to Mark Andrews, goes to Derrick Henry, and a few go to Lamar. So there is no touchdown upside there, and I don't think there's enough passing volume for Zay Flowers to really give us that large of a return to take him at wide receiver 27.
Nice call. And Steve?
Yeah, I mentioned Hampton in the 5th, and now I'm not, this is subject to change because I'm going to look at Hampton again, multiple, a couple more times before the season starts, and obviously before I get into my high stakes drafts. But I just feel like Najee, 2 rounds later, to me, I don't know if Hampton's just going to come in and just completely take the job from Najee, who's a proven veteran back who does not get hurt. So, for me, to pay, 2 rounds earlier for Hampton, I'm not sure about that. Another one similar, I think, a Dunze. Isn't he going around the 5th round? So yeah, 6th round. I don't know. I felt like a Dunze, to me, he's not a great separator. He's kind of like a contested ball guy. And Caleb, he did not look good to me last year. Now he could take a huge step up this year. Obviously, Ben Johnson comes into town, the offensive line, they have more weapons. But to me, he's I faded him last year, and I'm probably not going to have a lot of a Dunze again this year. I mean, look at DJ Moore. I mean, the year before with Fields, he had a career year. Then last year, he was so frustrated. He's ripping off his helmet. He's leaving the field early. And now this thing comes out with Caleb, and his father didn't want him there. So I don't know. I just get kind of, the vibes aren't great. So that's another guy. And it's not just, the Caleb. I don't know if a Dunze is like a big time NFL receiver to me. So
is that why you told me I had too many Chicago players on that?
Yeah, there you go. That's why I said that.
All I had was Caleb Williams and DeAndre Swift.
I think did you take a Dunze? I don't like Swift either. I
didn't have
I don't
so
like.
I know Dunze, when he was drafted, I mean, Harmon did his little spider graph, and it was the first time there was an all green, and so people got really excited. And then, of course, Caleb was coming into a team with lots of weapons, and so I think they were, doubling up the excitement. But there were the 3 receivers.
Right, it was stacked.
They still had Keenan Allen there, who was taking up a lot of air, and again DJ Moore, who is normally a wide receiver 1. So you've got a challenge, and it'll be interesting to see how he bounces, or if he bounces back this year.
I mean, it's a little less crowded for a Dunze, which helps, and the upgrade with the coaching is enormous. So that can make all the difference in the world. But for me, I got to just go with my instincts right now, and my instincts are telling me to stay away.
Yeah, the one worry though that they got rid of Keenan, but they added Loveland. So
and Luther Burden as well.
And Luther Burden, and Luther Burden's going to probably be the player they want to get the ball in open space and let him work with it. So
right,
it's going to be tough.
All right, Anthony, give us a mid to late round sleeper.
Ooh, a mid to late round sleeper.
Yeah, like round 11 to round 15. 16, so even 17. 11 through the end. Give us a sleeper.
Let me think here. We talked about Blue. We talked about Trevor Lawrence. Elick, I'm going to butcher the last name.
Imanar,
the rookie wide receiver in Tennessee. I like this kid, and he looks like he has a path to start in 2 wide sets. I think he has the traits and the build of a wide receiver 1, but they drafted him. I think about round 3 or round 4. What I like about him, and it's obviously interacts with Cam Ward here. These rookies are going to be on the field together before Cam Ward's going to be on the field with Calvin Ridley. I think they're going to have some time to grow a relationship. I also, last year I bought into Will Levis, which is obviously a mistake. But the reason why was Brian Callahan. I'm going to buy back into the Brian Callahan offense. And if Cam Ward is at least competent this offense is going to click a little bit, and Imanol at his cost, I think he could be a sneaky sleeper that nobody's really talking about right now, because there is a clear path for him to be a starting wide receiver. And what's his competition? Ridley, I guess, is still a nice player. Tyler Lockett was already falling off 2 years ago in Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have DK. If he could just beat out DK, and he's already, to me, a more talented wide receiver prospect, then, who knows?
Did they bring in Tyler Boyd?
Last year, right?
Was it last year?
I think it was last year.
Who, Tennessee had Tyler Boyd last
Yeah,
year.
Tyler Boyd might still be a free
He's
agent.
not there. He's not there anymore.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
No.
No, I like that. And Steve?
Yeah, let's see. I would say Kyle Williams, who I mentioned earlier, for the Patriots. I think he's a smooth player, and Diggs is there obviously too, but I feel like he's a type of rookie that could just come out and contribute day one. I also like Beck a little bit too. I got to watch a little bit more of him, but I kind of like what I saw from him. And then how about J.K. Dobbins? Like, if you need a running back, 14th round, he's going to sign somewhere and probably get a job somewhere. And he was solid last year with the Chargers. He had a pretty good season until he missed the last month. After he got hurt again, which has kind of been his, obviously his downfall. But yeah, he could sign in a nice spot. So, when the running backs, they seem to go pretty quick. There's not a lot of guys that are, if you're not hitting on these rookies, 14th round for Dobbins, I think is pretty good.
That's a good one, actually. That's pretty. I'd assume once he signs, that ain't going to be 14th round no more.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Get the value while you can if in your best ball drafts now. So, everybody says wait till the season starts, but now is the time where if you guess right, you could build some really incredible teams.
Agree. I totally agree with that. That's why I always mix one in. A couple early on for sure.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to have some teams that are absolutely horrible, but
you spend all your fab. You spend all your fab in week one trying to fix your bench. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Although I'm a big fan of spending your fab early.
I agree.
The whole season. So
I agree. I'm big into that too. I usually don't have much money left towards the end of the season.
I know, for the most part, same. And it's funny because I'll tell myself I'm gonna pace myself. I'm gonna leave myself a little cushion at the end, so in case I need it, and it never happens.
Yeah, well, I always figure if you need it at the end, then you really didn't have a good team to begin with. So
you got to leave yourself at least a couple bucks in case you got to make some emergency moves, but that's about it. But sometimes guys pop up at the end of the year too. You never know. So, but
all right. So, I'll give you guys a couple of general draft strategy questions. When you're approaching a draft, do you guys have a specific build or strategy that you prefer or plan on based on your pick spot, or do you guys just kind of wait and see and kind of go on the fly, take best player available, and then just kind of after round 3 or 4 know what you built, where you're going to go from that point on. So Anthony, if you want to start.
Yeah, I'm normally best player available. You could go into a draft with a strategy, but what if the draft doesn't go the way that you're planning on it to? And if you're really, trying to stick to that strategy, you could be, I don't want to say limiting yourself, but you can draft, a player just to stick to that strategy instead of drafting the best player available and then veering. So I like letting the board come to me and letting the draft dictate itself.
Yeah, be like water.
Yeah.
Or as opposed to Mike Tyson's saying, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the nose. So,
and we kind of touched on this earlier, but at what point do you decide when to click on a quarterback? when the elite ones are staring you in the face, like, and you decide to pass, what I want to know, like, what is it? Because why do you pass on the elite player at that point? And then when does it stick out to you when it's time to take a quarterback?
That'll depend. It could be, I'm sitting there in round 4 and I just don't like any skill position players that are there. And all of a sudden, hey, here's Joe Burrow.
Right.
That usually is the case. But if I like the skill position players, I can wait. This is especially a year where I'm fine waiting for quarterbacks. I'm really high on, like I said, guys like Dak, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Caleb Williams. And since the schedule was released, the Cardinals have one of the easiest schedules. Kyler Murray played a full season last year for the first time in a long time. I think Kyler could potentially be a nice, sneaky quarterback play as well, especially with that schedule.
Steve?
So, yeah, it's kind of like, if I'm noticing there's a lot of running backs and receivers still left that I like, then I'll be more prone to click on an Allen or a Jackson. Or if I got, maybe Jamar Chase, maybe I'll try to pair him with Burrow, something like that as well. But yeah, I mean, and also too, like I'll mix it up. Like, some leagues I'll wait on Mayfield. I don't mind waiting on Fields, but then I'll probably get another quarterback. I mean, Herbert is going really late too. I mean, that seems like a really good value as well. Herbert, I think, is going to start running a little bit more as well under this new regime. He showed that a little bit last year. So, I kind of mix it up. I definitely want to get Lamar and Josh Allen and Daniels and Burrow and Hurts. I mean, those guys, I don't think you can go wrong. I mean, I kind of say, Daniels, it's only his second year. He's only shown 1 year, but to me, he's like a no-brainer, successful prospect in the NFL. So I don't feel like you can go wrong there. We kind of got burnt a little bit last year with Stroud. People chased after Stroud after 1 good year, but Daniels is much more of a runner. And I think Daniels is better overall too. I think he showed that. So you could get burnt sometimes, not going with a guy that's been consistent every single year like Lamar or an Allen. Those guys are like, fantasy. They're like the Bitcoin of fantasy, basically, Lamar and Allen, or maybe like the gold of fantasy rather, since gold's been around much longer than Bitcoin. But yeah, so I'll mix it up. But yeah, like if there's talent on the board where I feel like there's a lot of receivers and running backs that I still like, then I'll pay up for the premium with the quarterbacks.
And there's even some interesting young players, and even if you're not playing dynasty, but you're playing redraft, Knicks or a May, might be, much improved in their second years, and they're going to provide you with a ton of value if you decide to wait on that quarterback position. So,
But again, like we always assume these rookie quarterbacks are going to be solid again their second year. You could get burnt by that, and I feel like May and Knicks are pretty safe. But I mean, because they both have that rushing upside where Stroud didn't really have that, so they're a little more safe in that aspect.
Yeah, good point.
Quarterback is very deep this year. I will say, waiting on it is 100% an option. You don't have to force that elite quarterback this year.
Well, that was 90 minutes of great insights and conversations. So really want to thank both of you for coming on the show. Anthony and Steve, you were just two of the really smartest guys in the industry. And, I think the audience will agree that, we were able to get a lot of great insight and advice from the two of you. And so really do appreciate you both being on here. Why don't you remind everybody where folks can find you for more of these great insights? So, Anthony, you want to start?
Yeah, you can follow me at The Real NFL Guru on social media and all of my work over on RotoWire.
Awesome. And Steve?
Yeah, at Fantasy Savvy on X. I'll be on the Face Off channel. I also have my own YouTube channel. When the high stakes drafts start kicking into gear, I'll be doing that stuff on my fantasy channel, Fantasy Savvy, but also doing high stakes on the Face Off channel. And then, I think it'd be a good idea. This was great, guys, to have, flip this in reverse and maybe interview you guys as well. So we could do that on the Face Off channel.
Absolutely, but we'd be down, and you better have me on for one of those high stakes streams.
Oh yeah, for sure, 100%.
I'll hop in there.
That's gonna be great. That's when we really get to the thick of things. So that'll be great.
Nice. All right. So I mean, appreciate you guys coming on.
Absolutely.
Like I said, one of my favorite listens for sure throughout the season, just in general. So that's it for tonight. Next week we got a little something different planned. Me and Rick were talking about it today. We didn't line up a guest, so you're gonna get a Rick and Joe show. We're going to talk about IDP. Rick's going to teach me IDP. I'm going to learn a little bit. That way I can be prepared for my first IDP draft whenever that may happen. I haven't committed to any yet, but I'm going to learn. Rick said we'll get you to learn this year at some point. So this is a good opportunity. We'll do a segment on IDP and some other various topics. I'm looking forward to it, actually. Not having to worry about preparing for a guest. I can just talk to Rick on the phone and we can just prepare that way. So, and that's it. Hit the like, subscribe. Appreciate you guys once again. Appreciate everybody in the chat. Have a good night.
I know.